What is up, guys? You are tuned into the Casual Wrestling Smackdown post show. I am NerdyD, and if you are listening, you are part of the CWC, and this is the show where we join together to overreact and answer the biggest questions coming out of Friday Night Smackdown this week. But before we do that, do me a little favor and tap the like button. It only takes 2 seconds, and it lets YouTube know that you are listening, and it helps grow the Casual Wrestling Army as we continue to chip away at the IWC stronghold over online wrestling conversation. Without further ado, let's jump into it. Housekeeping this week. The new schedules for shows will be posted later this week. I think it's an ambitious schedule, but it should be fun. There's going to be a lot of content coming your way. I'm shooting to have some form of new content up for you to watch Monday through Friday. Whether it's 15 minutes, whether it's 30 minutes, whatever it is, Monday through Friday, you get new content. And we'll be converting a few shows over to live shows, so that's something we're going to be doing. We're going to work out all the details, but with the new studio coming up here in the very near future, I don't see any issue with us being able to do live shows. So look forward to that. Watch-alongs, maybe a couple live episodes of Champ and the Chick. We'll see what happens. But that's the type of stuff that we'll be doing. So another solid SmackDown. Man, 2 hours just flies by when SmackDown is running at full speed. Let's see what the big four questions are coming out of the Blue brand this week. Question number one is, NerdyD, what are your thoughts on Kevin Owens being suspended, and what did you think about him on commentary this week? I stand by the statement I've made on numerous different occasions in regards to Kevin Owens, that Kevin Owens is the best all-around pro wrestler / entertainer in the business. That's AEW, WWE, New Japan Pro Wrestling, NXT, whatever your favorite brand of wrestling is. Kevin Owens is the all-around best guy in the business. There is nobody who can do the multiple things he does as far as wrestling goes. He wrestles at a high level. He cuts promos at a high level. Commentary, backstage comedy. He leaves 100% in the ring every night. And I don't think that you can say that about very many wrestlers. I don't think there's a lot of guys who every night, no matter if it's a SmackDown, if it's a Raw, if it's a premium live event, they're bringing it. I think that 90% of wrestlers phone it in until they see the opportunity to make the big splash. And it's the old saying, if you stay ready, you're always ready. And with Kevin Owens, I think that red light is just always on every week. You have to watch and listen to every single just little thing that Kevin Owens does to get the full Kevin Owens experience. He might be doing something kind of off to the side that you're not paying attention to that could be one of the highlights of the entire show. But I want to make something very clear to the IWC right here. KO belongs to the casual fans. He isn't one of your flippy, no personality indie boys no more. He might be a friend with the elite. He might be friend to the Young Bucks, but let's make a clear distinction here. He's a sports entertainer through and through. He bleeds sports entertainment. I can already smell the lack of deodorant on the internet, the IWC coming to try to jump back on to the Kevin Owens train. No. Boys, we roll with KO through the bad times. Us as casuals, we roll with KO through the bullshit that was Vince McMahon. Everything that Vince put him through, the casuals rode with him. You IWC guys don't get to come back now. And now that Triple H is running the show and using him for what he's actually worth, you guys don't get to jump back on the train. But CWC, tell me something. Tell me if I'm reading too deep into something that I saw on SmackDown, because I can kind of feel myself buying into the conspiracy bullshit of pro wrestling. But was there any way that KO at the commentary desk was either a hint or a shot at CM Punk? Because I might be reaching for straws and seeing patterns that don't exist. But it felt to me like the whole I borrowed this tie from Nick Aldis was kind of eerily similar to CM Punk stealing Triple H's jacket when he did the commentary in WWE back during his big run around 2011, 2010, whatever that was. But am I reaching? Am I reaching for that? I'm not sure. Could it have been WWE and KO, or even showing that they don't need CM Punk? That KO can do anything that CM Punk can do? There's a lot of questions I have coming out of SmackDown. Because if you really think about it, what story or skill does CM Punk have that Kevin Owens doesn't have? Maybe the only thing I'll say is commercial appeal. CM Punk has huge name value. But is there any real story arc that you could present to CM Punk that wouldn't directly work if you're talking about Kevin Owens? And I'm a huge CM Punk guy, which is probably why I'm a huge Kevin Owens guy. It just, I think they're at this point slightly interchangeable. But can we take a few minutes to talk about how good Kevin Owens was on the commentary table this week? Something has to be said about guys who get behind the table and give genuine reactions to what they see going on in the ring. I don't know if guys like Corey Graves and Kevin Patrick, I don't know if they get numb to the excitement or if they're just kind of trained to react a certain way, but there's just a little extra kind of oomph that you feel when the guy at the table is actually enjoying what he sees going on in the ring. Now, maybe we can blame Pat McAfee for this, right? Maybe Pat McAfee opened my eyes to how much a commentator can influence what is presented in front of me. I understand that there's always going to be the need for a Michael Cole who steers the ship and keeps things professional. But when guys like Pat McAfee and Kevin Owens are along for the ride, it kind of gives me these like genuine, I don't know, man. There's just a level of like realism that it kind of brings, and it ups my level of excitement for what I'm watching in the ring. It almost feels like the way that Kevin Owens and Pat McAfee react and they say things, they're opposite of what you would expect from announcers in the WWE. They're kind of going off of the script that we're used to, and it just adds a little bit of unpredictability. But Kevin Owens on commentary, the way he genuinely reacted to multiple spots and situations, it just kind of felt fresh. It felt like he was invested in what was going on in the ring, and I haven't felt that in the last couple weeks. Kevin Patrick tends to just have one speed. Corey Graves, he's witty, and he can be funny at times, but I never kind of genuinely believe that he cares about what's happening in the ring. And maybe they're instructed. Maybe that's the way they're taught. Maybe Michael Cole teaches them, you have to be that way. And maybe it's a lack of training from Pat McAfee and Kevin Owens that give me the vibe and kind of make them likable when they're sitting next to Michael Cole. I mean, I would start a petition right now if I could to just have Kevin Owens be a wrestler/announcer every week. I think it would make SmackDown more fun. If we can't have Pat McAfee, I'm completely fine with KO being a wrestler/announcer every week, but then Nick Aldis had to go and fucking suspend him. That's what we're up against now. So let's talk about the suspension angle, because that's what we've got here, right? I mean, there's an art to a great story arc that rides an entire episode. You can kind of feel it building. You can feel it bubbling. There's good, there's evil, there's tension. And from the pre-show on, KO asking to do commentary to Nick Aldis, and Nick Aldis warning him that if he gets physical, he'll be suspended. Then you go on to KO laughing at Waller during his match, Waller getting water poured on him, KO continuing to laugh, all the way to the point where KO, telling Kevin Patrick, sorry, I need to go get myself suspended. That's an art form. There's an art form of telling that story. And if we're heading where I think we're heading, as far as Kevin Owens goes, we could be in for an amazing ride. KO against a corrupt SmackDown authority is one of those classic storylines. It doesn't need a world title to drive it. And that's rare in this day and age in pro wrestling. And Kevin Owens is the guy to pull it off. I had a thought that LA Knight might be in that position, but KO is definitely better suited for that role. I worried about the lack of titles on SmackDown. I said it last week, but this is the type of story that could keep casual fans' minds off of the fact that neither Roman Reigns or Logan Paul are on SmackDown, which meant there was 0 men's titles at play on SmackDown this week, and I don't think they were really missed that much. Now, I would love it if Kevin Owens shows up next week with a mustache and claim to be his brother Calvin Owens, kind of in a nod to the Elias and Ezekiel story that we never really got a resolution to. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't expect this suspension to be something that rides out for a long time. Because like I said, SmackDown just doesn't have enough going on to put this story on the back burner for too long. I don't think you can do that. SmackDown, if you look at SmackDown and you look really closely, it only has like 4 viable baby faces on the roster right now. You have Rey Mysterio, who appears to have been written off an injury. You have Carlito, you have LA Knight, and you have Kevin Owens. And outside of that, those are really the only ones that have some TV drawing power. And I think, having said what I just said, that's being very generous to Carlito, because I don't know that he's been back long enough to have established kind of a following within the casual wrestling community. But this story arc with Kevin Owens and Nick Aldis has potential to drive SmackDown for the next 8 weeks. You could be looking at some of the most fun shows we've seen in a long time going forward right here. And big bonus if this leads to a WrestleMania match between Nick Aldis and KO. Question number 2 this week. NerdyD, were you happy to see that the LWO Civil War has finally begun and Santos Escobar has finally turned heel? I'm not sure that I saw this the same way as everybody else is seeing this. So the IWC is reading into this and exclaiming on the internet that Santos Escobar has turned heel. And the way my twisted mind read into this was, I think Carlito turned heel. I think that Santos Escobar is just finally starting to see through some of the bullshit that is the LWO. The way I see it is that Rey Mysterio is a bad father and a bad mentor. He's running around SmackDown using violence to solve his disagreements with those close to him. Santos has rode with Rey from the jump. These two were supposed to be in this together. And all of a sudden Carlito comes out and you're just going to believe him like that? Not even going to give Santos Escobar a chance to explain himself? I mean, Carlito came in hot, accusing Santos with no evidence. There's no real evidence that something happened. Sure. Did Santos accidentally leave the brass knuckles on the ring? Yeah, he did. But let's be real. Who's the natural heel in this situation? It's Carlito. Carlito screams bad guy. I don't see this as a heel turn. I see this as a vengeance story for Santos Escobar. You're telling me Rey Mysterio's mad at Santos because he stood on the apron and watched Carlito get jumped by Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. Like, what the fuck, bro? You want me to jump in to a 3-on-1 situation, which is really a 4-on-1 because Bobby Lashley equals 2 humans. So you want me to jump in and get my ass beat down for a guy who just came in hot and tried to ruin my relationship with my wrestling family? Not happening. I'm not getting my ass in there with Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits. I'm saying good call for Santos Escobar. That's what I'm doing. Bro, if I'm Santos Escobar right now, I'm on the phone with Bobby Lashley immediately and asking for one of those nice ass suits so I could join whatever it is you've got going on over there, Bobby Lashley. I'm like, hey, we could beat up these LWO assholes together. I mean, Lashley, Street Profits, Escobar versus Rey, Carlito, the one guy that nobody knows and the other guy who's really Filipinos, but he's moonlighting as a Mexican to fit in. Yeah, we could do that. Let's do a traditional Survivor Series match. Let's just add another match to Survivor Series. But go watch the tape. Go watch the tape. Seriously, I watched it back like 5 times. Rey Mysterio gets aggressive first. Rey Mysterio hits first. First, he pushes Escobar before Escobar does anything physical back to Rey Mysterio. And after he's pushed, Escobar looks genuinely concerned about what's going on. Boom, Rey Mysterio shoves him. That's disrespectful. That's not cool, right? And so Santos, finally tired of the disrespect, tired of being pushed to the side, he's looking for liberation. Because here's what's happening. Rey Mysterio has been gaslighting Santos this entire time. He wasn't ever going to let Santos Escobar get his shine, just like he never let Dominic Mysterio get his shine. He needed to treat Dominic Mysterio like a 13-year-old boy his entire career. So even after Santos attacked Rey Mysterio just out of pure emotion, that wasn't a bad guy thing. That was just a release of all the bullshit over the past 3 months. What does Santos do? He goes and he helps up Rey Mysterio. And how does Rey Mysterio respond to this? Rey Mysterio hit Santos Escobar with a 2-piece Popeyes extra crispy bitch slap combo, knocking Santos Escobar out of the ring. I'm concerned about Santos Escobar right now. He's probably in concussion protocols because of those 2 open hand bitch slaps that Rey Mysterio performed on SmackDown. Santos Escobar is just realizing that this was an abusive relationship. This is what it's like to have an abusive mentor. And even after all of that shit, even after everything that happened, Santos Escobar, like a man, looked Rey Mysterio in the eyes and told him that he loved him. He told Rey Mysterio that this was supposed to be me and you doing our thing here, and you let Carlito come get in the middle of that. That's not a heel turn for Escobar. As far as I'm concerned, that's a babyface turn. This is vengeance. This is a Batman story. Rey's been heel ever since he bitch slapped Dom and stole Escobar's title shot. That's the way I see things. Maybe I have a twisted mentality of what's going on. But Escobar even tells Zelina Vega, he did this to me. He's pleading to Zelina. Rey Mysterio did this. I didn't do this. This is my family. This is not Santos's fault. This is Rey's fault. That Rey has the whole LWO brainwashed to believe that he's some babyface legend. Bro, this reminds me of when Justin Bieber and Selena Gomez broke up and they got into that big fight, right? I'm fucking on hashtag Team Santos. I'm getting me a hashtag Team Santos shirt because I'm on Santos' side on this one. At this point, how can you blame Santos if he goes full Darth Vader storyline and just embraces a Eddie Guerrero mentality and turns to the heel life? How can we be mad at him? The LWO and Rey Mysterio created this monster. Now they got to live with it. This was, but to be honest, this was beautiful writing by Triple H. This is Shakespeare level shit that we're witnessing on a wrestling program. This is tragedy, man. This is deep. There are emotions coming out. And Triple H is out here cooking with this faction game. I mean, IWC, AEW, you might want to grab a pen and paper and take notes. This is how you do factions. This is how you do faction stories. WWE has the Bloodline cooking. They got LWO cooking. They got Judgment Day cooking. They got Damage Control, Alpha Academy, Imperium, Bobby Lashley, and the Street Profits all cooking. That's how you do it. First, Triple H takes the tag team division that was in desperate need of help, and he revives it back to life. Now Triple H has all the factions reconstructed in the image that he wants them to be, and WWE is starting to look like a beast. When you start piecing some of these things together, when you start seeing these things come together, I truly believe Triple H is on the right path to just establishing WWE as what we kind of remember from the Attitude Era. All right, third question. NerdyD, did LA Knight's loss to Roman Reigns hurt him moving forward, or did he survive Crown Jewel and come out stronger on the other side? Here's the thing, CWC. Not only did LA Knight survive Crown Jewel, but he came out on the other side with bumps, bruises, and scars that are going to make him even more likable with the fans. LA Knight beat Roman Reigns. For all intents and purposes, let that sink in. LA Knight beat Roman Reigns. He beat the tribal chief. Most of the time, as wrestling fans, we would overlook this. But as he continues on with the bloodline in the next couple of weeks, I think that the casual fans all bought into the genuine idea that LA Knight was screwed out of this opportunity. Because Drew McIntyre's been there. Sami Zayn has been there. There's been a lot of contenders who have been screwed in the ring with Roman Reigns, but I don't think they have the legitimate gripe that LA Knight has here. Roman didn't kick out of LA Knight's finisher. Jimmy Uso stepped in and saved him, and I think the WWE Universe knows this. But here's the big kicker. There's more at play than just winning the WWE title at Crown Jewel. Two big things happen that most people aren't thinking or talking about. Number one, the writer's strike is over, which means that John Cena is officially gone from WWE for now, for the time being, right? And secondly, the belief is that Roman Reigns is gone until 2024. So what does that mean in casual terms? LA Knight is the guy. LA Knight is the man on SmackDown. There really isn't anybody else to shoulder that main event load. Remember when the IWC was running around saying that LA Knight was going to be a flash in the pan, that he couldn't be the guy, that Triple H wouldn't put the rocket on his back or trust him to hold down the fort? Well, here we are. LA Knight is the man. He is the horse that is pulling the wagon. The ship is he's the captain. No Cena, no Roman Reigns, just all LA Knight. And it looks like LA Knight isn't done with the bloodline yet, which means he may not quite be done with Roman Reigns yet. So let's not discount that LA Knight and Roman Reigns, this feud could catch fire, and it could force Triple H to reconsider the whole booking scheme as we get closer to WrestleMania. This is not the first time that the WWE Universe has willed their way into a main event of WrestleMania. We all remember Daniel Bryan, Batista, and Randy Orton. We get LA Knight and Jimmy Uso next week on SmackDown, which in my opinion, something's got to happen. There's got to be something, some big sparks, keep us interested in what's going on. And I think that's going to lead to possibly a match with a big stipulation down the line between LA Knight and Jimmy Uso, because I think Jimmy's kind of due his time in the spotlight. But with all the big surprises and names at Survivor Series, I don't know that I want LA Knight lost in that shuffle. I think that if you look at the resume of LA Knight, I think Knight is fine as far as premium live events go in 2023. Like, he could just cook with the bloodline for the next 2 months or transition over to Logan Paul when Logan Paul decides to show back up. I'm guessing Logan shows up in the next couple of weeks and we're going to get some kind of tease of a back and forth between Logan and LA Knight. I don't know if that saved for later time at WrestleMania, but I think that we're primed to at least see them in the ring together. To be honest, I think if Logan Paul shows up 3 to 4 SmackDowns between Survivor Series and Royal Rumble, we can consider that a win. We'll consider that he did his work as United States champion, but it's not looking good. It's not looking good that week one coming out of winning the title, you don't show up. But here's the bigger booking problem. This is the bigger problem I'm looking at as far as the Royal Rumble goes. I can make the argument for probably 3 different people to win the title in the match. Cody wins again, challenges Roman Reigns. I think we all assume that's a possibility, right? Sheamus wins, challenges Gunther. I think that's a long shot, but I still like the optics of that situation. But we got to ask the question, who would challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship? CM Punk? That's the ultimate long shot for me. I don't know that that's real. Realistically, maybe Gunther, but I don't think that's going to be so. So let's go off what the odds are saying. Let's go off what the books are saying. Everybody's saying LA Knight wins the Royal Rumble. Because if you look at every website that makes predictions, they have him winning the Rumble. Now, he could easily challenge Seth Rollins and move over to Raw. All you have to do, I think easily fans would be okay if you executed a trade that featured like Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes going to SmackDown and LA Knight going to Monday Night Raw. I think that balances out the rosters enough that SmackDown doesn't suffer from losing who probably is their main star right now. But yeah, he could challenge Seth Rollins. He could do the dumb thing and challenge Logan Paul. You win the Royal Rumble and challenge Logan Paul for the United States Championship. It doesn't feel like a very Triple H move at this point, but dumber things have happened in pro wrestling. Or hell, LA Knight could challenge Roman Reigns again and completely mess up Cody Rhodes' story. And I don't hate that idea. I think there's some merit to putting LA Knight and Roman Reigns in a ring at WrestleMania and seeing if there's fireworks again. If I'm booking, if I take the driver's seat of booking all the way to WrestleMania, I think the safest and smartest play is to put him in the World Heavyweight Championship picture with Seth Rollins. and let him beat Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. Let him hold on to the belt until Germany, and then have Gunther take it from him there. And that's a nice little run for LA Knight. We'll get to see if he can live up to the hype that is what the WWE Universe has created to him. But so much of this depends on what happens at Survivor Series. CM Punk returning will throw a monkey wrench into everything. And there's always the possibility that Randy Orton's coming back. He could turn on Seth Rollins. That throws a wrinkle in everything that's going on. There's a lot to watch, and there's a lot that's going to unfold. Typically, this is my least favorite time for WWE, this cold winter break that spans from the end of Survivor Series to the beginning of the Royal Rumble, which is roughly about 8 weeks. It's one of the longest points in time that WWE has to go without booking towards a premium live event. And for the first time in a long time, I'm actually kind of excited about all of the holes that WWE has to fill in as we come closer to WrestleMania and as we come closer to the Royal Rumble, because I think there's a lot that WWE is going to have to explain in the next couple of weeks to kind of give us that roadmap moving forward of what we can expect to see come March. All right, last question for this week. NerdyD, we finally got to see a glimpse of what the women's War Game match is going to be. Did you like the setup, and who should be Team Bianca's fourth member? I don't mean to start sounding like a Triple H drone or a WWE drone, but once again, Triple H's booking is so on point right now. This was a beautiful setup for what is going to end up being a really fun match. And I was worried. I think I mentioned this last week on the Monday show, that there's no seeds laid for a women's War Game match that made any sense. But this whole time it's been right under my nose. I just didn't see it. I had just written off Damage Control as a mid-card faction on SmackDown that absolutely nobody cared about. Now I look at this and I'm asking myself the real question. Could this match be the main event at War Games? I mean, it has all of the elements to be a fire match. Damage Control right now after SmackDown is absolutely loaded with ridiculous talent. Even if we all know, and it's pretty obvious, I think, that if we all know this is the beginning of the end for Bayley as far as Damage Control goes, we at least get to see this faction cook for a few weeks. I think, if I'm placing my bet right now, I think the heel team wins, and we get to see Bayley slowly push to the outside of the group that she formed just last year at SummerSlam. Maybe it's the casual in me, and maybe it's the fact that I turned off all of my notifications on Twitter and X, that I didn't even think about Asuka turning on Bianca Belair and Charlotte on SmackDown. It was one of those fun moments that happened very rare for me, where I was genuinely surprised at what happened. I just right now wish that Dakota Kai was healthy, because a 5-on-5 would have been, it just would have been a cherry on top of the whipped cream as far as this match goes. So the big question, though, that everybody's asking right now, who's the fourth for Team Bianca? And you can run down a list of the usual suspects, but I have my suspicions for who I think it could actually be, and I have who I genuinely want to be in the match. The biggest name I'm seeing thrown out right now, thrown out all over the internet, is Jade Cargill. I'm just not ready for this to be her first match in WWE. I think that she needs to be dominant and associated as being on her own in the beginning of her WWE career. Let her cook in NXT. Let's give her time. Let's not throw her into a fire just yet. And the time will come where she will be needed on the main roster. I don't want the first imagery of Jade Cargill to be her teaming up with Charlotte Flair and Bianca Belair, because I think those have potential to be big rivalries for her later on. I need Jade Cargill to do Jade Cargill. Plus, I think that the babyface team is more than likely going to take the loss here, so I don't want Jade Cargill losing right out of the gates. So the second name I've seen thrown around is Becky Lynch. And my counter for that conversation is, I think that Triple H is trying to keep the War Games matches pretty brand specific. I don't think he wants Kevin Owens jumping back over to the Raw side, and I don't think he wants Becky Lynch jumping over to the SmackDown side. And on top of that, kind of like Jade Cargill, I don't want to see Becky Lynch get all chummy with Charlotte Flair and Bianca Belair. I think that there's potential for great stories down the road, let's not murk that up with unnecessarily putting Becky Lynch into the War Games match. I think that there are rivals as far as Charlotte and Becky and Becky and Bianca. I think they should stay that way. Like, Becky has enough story and enough issues going on Raw that she doesn't need to jump over. Unless I'm going to say is that if Damage Control was to add Xia Li, then I think Becky Lynch makes sense. Other than that, I don't like that idea. So now I get to some of the more fun ideas I have, right? The ones that would make the most sense to me and that would generate the most pop from casual fans. And the first one I talk about is Liv Morgan. I think that if she's ready to return, she's somebody who comes back, gets that big pop. She can afford a loss coming out of the gates. A return to SmackDown would strengthen the women's division. I think that is a very strong possibility. I will tell you on the flip side, someone who I think is a possibility but I don't want to see is Mia Yim. I just don't think that Mia Yim has done enough in my eyes to warrant being the surprise fourth member of the team. I think we have to mention Sasha Banks. I think there's a 0% chance that that's in the works and it hasn't leaked out to any wrestling news organization. So I'm not even going to really entertain it, but I think it needs to be mentioned. But lastly, the person who I think would be the most fun, the answer that I think I would enjoy the most is Roxana Perez from NXT, getting the call up, getting the opportunity to show herself off on the main roster at a premium live event. Like, I think that exposure is invaluable. I saw her in a Weapons Wild match at Great American Bash, was there live. It was phenomenal. She was absolutely great. So we know that Roxana can handle herself and handle the physicality of weapons and kind of hardcore matches. And then a couple weeks later, we got to see her go toe-to-toe with Asuka on NXT. And I'm wondering now, was that not a test to see if she was ready? Did she have to pass the Asuka test? And Asuka comes back and goes, oh no, guys, she's ready. We can do this. We can put her in the War Games match. I think just from a future star standpoint, the exposure of being in a match like this, especially if you come in and you show out, which I expect Roxana would do, I think that's priceless. But my biggest fear with this War Games match overall is Shotzi. And I hate that because I've defended Shotzi on numerous occasions. And I'd call myself a Shotzi fan. But of all the women in this match, I think, and there's real heavy hitters in this match, guys, I don't know if Shotzi is ready for the level of skill that's going to be in that ring. Bianca Belair, heavy hitter. Charlotte Flair, heavy hitter. Asuka, heavy hitter. Bayley, heavy hitter. Io and Kairi, technical beast. Shotzi, still developing. She's on her way. She's getting better. I just don't know if this is where you want to highlight Shotzi at the moment. And look, I hope I'm absolutely wrong. I hope that everybody can throw this back in my face the week after Survivor Series. I hope that this is a coming out party for Shotzi and she just absolutely shows out, she kills it, and we start saying Shotzi has arrived. But I mean, I don't know. I think that's one of those things when I look at the card and I go, that's one of the questions I have. But one question I don't have is Survivor Series is looking pretty yoked. Like, for the matches that we know for sure and what I've seen, it's looking like this is going to be a must-watch premium live event for me. Someone needs to tell Tony Khan at this point, this is how you book a premium live event when you have 2 weeks notice, when you have 2.5, 3 weeks notice. This is what you do. You don't just start throwing random people together. You take what you have in front of you and you start making stories out of it. We know 4 matches confirmed. War Games Men, which is going to be a good match. We know War Games Women, which is looking like it's going to be a good match. We have Gunther versus Miz. Still have not seen a bad Gunther match. I don't expect that starts with The Miz. And then we have Rhea Ripley versus Zoe Stark, which I'd say is the weakest match of those 4. But is that really? That's not a weak match. We've been wanting that for a while. And you've got to assume that with the War Games matches being time eaters, that you get maybe 1 or 2 more matches on that card. At best, 2 more matches. I'm starting to think LA Knight feels unlikely. I think you could do Ray versus Santos, but it may be too soon. Kevin Owens could come into play in some form or fashion on the card. And if we really feel like the CM Punk dream is going to stay alive, then we need Shinsuke Nakamura to have an open challenge or some kind of match where CM Punk could show up in Chicago. We are heading into a very important next couple of weeks of wrestling, where things are going to have to become a little more flushed out and clear. We've got 2 more Raws and 2 more SmackDowns before this cold winter begins. And I think that the next 2 weeks are going to be impactful as far as pro wrestling goes. Let's talk some news before we get out of here. Nerdy D, what are your thoughts on NXT moving to CW? I think it's a good way for NXT to separate itself from the main roster. I question how you sell to CW that every time somebody gets good enough to kind of headline your show, they get shipped off to a different television company. They go to the main roster and they just leave your show. I don't know how that was presented to CW. I think it'll be interesting to see that if call-ups kind of slow down for the initial run on CW, and if we see WWE really start to rotate in main roster stars even more than they're already doing, and even at a higher level to keep the ratings looking good on a new network. I suspect we see that. I suspect that there will be a lot of tricks at play to make sure that those CW ratings really feel like CW got what they paid for. And especially because early on, I think it will start being kind of an apples to apples comparison with AEW. I think that some listeners of this show probably think I'm against the idea of making NXT a legitimate third brand of WWE, because I've said it numerous times. It's not right now. You guys can say whatever you want. It's at this point in time, it's not. But I'm not against doing that. It just takes a lot of changes and a lot of real commitment to keep a third brand of a company happy and healthy. You have to start paying people. You have to stop paying your top talent on NXT enough to erase their aspirations to get the big contract on the main roster shows. And that's not being done right now. That's why it's not a third brand. You have to send legitimate talent down from your main roster to strengthen the product. You're going to have to take a good chunk, and you have it. It exists, but you're going to have to take some of that and invest it into the NXT product, and it can't be this thing where they show up on Raw, they show up on SmackDown, then they show up on NXT. You're going to have to dedicate certain superstars to just be must-watch on NXT. And you're going to have to commit some real space on some of your bigger premium live events to matches that need to be featured on the same level as Raw and SmackDown. You're going to have to give up spaces in the Royal Rumble and premium live events to make the brand feel like it's on par with the other two. As long as NXT is a farm for talent to rise up to Raw and SmackDown, I refuse to recognize it as an official third brand. It's still developmental. And I wonder if in negotiations with CW, I have to wonder, how was this sold to them? Did they say, hey, we've got a third brand of wrestling that we'd love to put on your television network, and we'll have a cast of stars and you'll get used to seeing them? Or was it sold to them as, look, this is a developmental program. It does pretty good numbers, but you have to know that you're never going to have just a mainstay big name that you can promote throughout the entire year. Second story here. Nerdy D, the IWC says that Logan Paul disrespected the United States title by posting pictures in the shower with it. Look, I told you guys, this is what WWE signed up for with Logan Paul. Mass attention from all aspects and all avenues of the internet world. He's trolling the IWC, and he's making people pay attention to a title that was absolutely dead for the last 3 years. I mean, come on, guys, get a fucking sense of humor. These pictures are funny. They're what you want a heel to do. They're what you want Logan Paul to do. These are very Logan Paul antics. And the IWC is not mentioning that Logan was at UFC 295 with the belt, right? He was wearing the United States Championship at a UFC event. I don't think that's been done before. Like, Logan is wearing the motherfucker like it matters. He's given the title more legitimacy than it has ever had. And this is great marketing for WWE and TKO. The IWC are just going to have to squirm the entire time that Logan Paul is champion. That's just the way it's going to be. Last news story of the week. NerdyD, what do you make of the WWE updating CM Punk's profile on WWE.com? Personally, I don't think you tinker with shit if you aren't planning to tinker with shit some more. I don't subscribe to the point of view that WWE is going to troll its fans, that this is something they just wanted to get a reaction from. I think that's bad for business. That's bad for a company that relies on ticket sales. I'm a firm believer that where there's smoke, there's fire. And too many coincidences have happened at this point. And there's too much upside to this CM Punk situation. I think the more that I hear rumors that CM Punk is the devil in AEW, the more I start to believe that this may be WWE diverting attention from all of the people who think they have this thing figured out. The upside with CM Punk is tremendous. The downside you get, you have to fire him? That might be upside for Triple H. You get to fire CM Punk again. If only for one night. The wrestling world is going to lose its shit. Chicago is going to go absolutely crazy if CM Punk shows up. I still think that CM Punk versus Kevin Owens would be my favorite thing I've ever seen in pro wrestling all time. I truly believe that. And I don't know if this is wishful thinking, but if they are preparing for something, changing renders, getting WWE Shop ready, here's the thing. The merch alone that you would sell night one on WWE.com Survivor Series is probably going to recapture all of the financial liability that CM Punk is. So it's not a money problem. You're going to sell the t-shirts. And I know that Eric Bischoff said, WWE doesn't need CM Punk. But how? I don't understand how you can say that with a straight face. Look at I see 10 possible feuds over 2 years that you could do with CM Punk that I would love to see. You have Punk versus Kevin Owens, Punk versus Jey Uso, Punk versus Cody Rhodes, Punk versus Roman, Rollins, LA Knight, Logan Paul, Theory, Waller, Shinsuke Nakamura. I honestly believe there's something cooking. If there's not, it's a missed opportunity if they choose not to at least just take advantage of the fucking wild night you're going to get at Survivor Series. Just do that. I at this point, I'm sold. I think CM Punk's coming back. But that's all I have for this week. New show schedule coming out later this week. Expect a Raw post show around Wednesday. There's some things going on this week as far as the new studio that I might be kind of tied up in. So this will probably be the last week where it's just kind of all over the place. Doesn't feel, I know it feels like I'm not as engaged as I used to be, but there's really things at play on the outside that are actually, I'm building infrastructure to actually take this thing to the next level. So stick with me. I'll be back in the Discord. I'll be back in the comment sections. I'll be back, like I said, dropping a new show Monday through Friday. We're going to pump content out of this casual wrestling community, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. Hit the like button, share this episode with somebody It's the shares that help the channel. That's absolutely the most important thing, is every time this show gets shared and more people kind of start to listen, we definitely grow. The goal now is 10,000. We hit 5,000. I never thought we'd get to 5,000. We've turned our sights to hitting 10,000. They tell me 10,000 is where you start to play with some of the bigger boys. So let's get us up to 10,000. Let's hit that number. We're trending in the right direction. Like I said, you guys fuel the movement. Every share is huge for the casual wrestling community. The IWC knows we're out here, man. I'm starting to see mentions of us on the internet and people not liking what we're doing, not liking that we're bringing attention to the negative shit that the IWC says all the time. So let's keep that up. Until next time, keep it casual, guys. I'm tapping out.